The Greensboro sit-ins. One of the major events in the civil rights movement was the Greensboro sit-ins. On February 1st, 1960, 4 African-American freshman students who attended North Carolina Agricultural and Technical College started a movement that helped end segregation. These 4 were named the Greensboro Four and included Azell Blair Jr., David Richmond, Franklin McCain, and Joseph McNeil. What started the act of the sit-in was the inequality many African Americans faced. Among these actions was the murder of Emmett Till, who was beaten and murdered for supposedly harassing a white woman. The 4 boys were outraged by the murder, which then motivated them to change the inequality in America. These 4 believed in nonviolent protest like the ones practiced by Mohandas Gandhi, and therefore led to the plan of sit-ins. The Greensboro sit-ins was not the first sit-in, but the 3rd. However, this was the sit-in that caught the attention of the nation and ultimately aided in the termination of inequality throughout America. February 1st, 1960. The Greensboro Four walked into Woolworth's restaurant expecting no service but hoping for a change. The men sat at the counter and asked to be served coffee. There were a few service and sat there until the diner closed. This day marked the beginning of a new form of nonviolent protesting. However, the men were not treated as nonviolent protesters. They were beaten, called horrible names. For example, one Woolworth employee, a dishwasher who happened to be an African-American lady, called the boys stupid, arrogant, rebel-rousers, and troublemakers. Other than name-calling, the protesters were also beaten when provoked by white anti-protesters. There were all kinds of chaotic outbreaks, and because of these sit-ins, Woolworths, as well as other businesses, lost a lot of money. Here you see a white man fighting with another white man. The police were obviously against the sit-ins. Sitters were also arrested for public disturbance when in actuality they were protesting peacefully, except for some minor misconduct. After the diner closed 30 minutes earlier than normal, the 4 finally left. The next day, 20 more students joined the 4. By the 4th day, white women from North Carolina's Women's College joined the protest. On the 5th day, there were over 300 people protesting at Woolworths. In North Carolina, cities such as Winston-Salem, Durham, Raleigh, and Charlotte also participated in sit-ins. Then the movement spread out of North Carolina to other southern towns such as Lexington, Kentucky, Richmond, Virginia, Tallahassee, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, Orangeburg, South Carolina, Montgomery, Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. By February 7th, the movement caught the attention in 9 states, 15 cities with 54 sit-ins. Compared to previous sit-ins, this was a huge accomplishment. Near the end of March, the protest had spread throughout the country. 55 cities and 13 states had sit-ins. Protesters formed schedules where some would stay at the restaurant and others would continue with school or other work. No food counters were left unattended. On July 25, 1960, the work finally paid off. At the Greensboro Woolworths, 4 African-American workers, Geneva Tisdale, Susie Morris, Athena Jones, and Charles Best, were allowed to eat at the counter. The very next day, all Woolworths were desegregated, which allowed all races to dine. The protesters felt relieved when Woolworths was finally desegregated. This reassured them the movement would be a success because of their hard work and dedication. It also showed that through peaceful protesting, a change can be made for the better. Anti-protesters were against the movement, but soon realized equality amongst all Americans was in the near future. The Greensboro sit-ins sparked many sit-ins across the nation and helped lead in the civil rights movement. The Greensboro sit-in is forever known as one of the major acts of the civil rights movement, and the legacy of the 4 men will be remembered. Today, the public still looks back at the event and celebrates the anniversary of it. Today, there are only 2 of the Greensboro Four alive, but all of the 4 men are celebrated for their acts against racism and inequality. The Greensboro sit-in led the nation into a segregation-free society. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, was founded in April 1960 in reaction of the nonviolent protests. It helps in the civil rights movement by organizing the Freedom Rides, the March on Washington in 1963, and also it worked with the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. These organizations ultimately led to the end of segregation in the United States and also promoted peaceful protesting by following the tradition set by the Greensboro Four on February 1, 1960.